Moon-shaped pool. I guess that just means it's a big circle. New album by Radiohead. The Jesus Christ that was heralded. John the Baptist. I guess. By Burn the Witch and Daydreaming last week. Got the 2 tracks. Very, very interesting stuff. Big time contrast between the two, but now the album is dropped. It's a download, but it will also be coming out physically. That way you can hold it in your hands and cradle it in your arms like a newborn baby come June the 17th of this year, 2016. So we need to talk about this disc because it's the first Radiohead album in 5 years. It's been a long time, ever since The King of Limbs was dropped, and really The King of Limbs was an album that got some varied opinions based around it. Now, of course, any album by this band does, considering they are sonic frontiersmen and have been ever since their 1990s origins, but this was an album where some people were saying, and I was shocked to hear it, they said, do the boys still have it? They actually didn't like or didn't care for The King of Limbs all that much. Sounds a bit fruity to me, but whatever. So they thought that this album, that the band needed to prove something, I guess, like Radiohead needs to prove anything. Come on, these guys are a huge commercial success. They're very well known, very well loved. They're loved by the rock community, the alternative community, the prog community, and so that in turn, partially by the metal community. They are very well respected. So, Burn the Witch, quite a different song for them. So, right out of the gate we have something that's pretty different, mainly because it almost has this positive glow that is presented in the instrumentalization. Almost like if Coldplay decided to go a little bit deranged, it was the best way that I could put it. It's kind of weird, and I like it a lot based around that, because Tom's voice just is able to cascade over this and just do its thing and do it very well. Very simplistic lyrics, not something that needs to be overstated, instead something that is just very simply stated. And plus I dug the music video for this because of its sort of semi-retelling of The Wicker Man, and really the only retelling portion was near the end point, which has its own theme behind it as well, explored if you will. Daydreaming, on the other hand, is a complete contrast, and this is one that, instead of being kind of that little bit more poppy glow to it, instead it features a little bit more melancholy. It's something that's very dreamy, almost expansive. I thought very much about the 1990s Porcupine Tree material, both on this song and on the track that follows it, which is Dex Dark. Really just that soft voice, very reminiscent of the soft voice that we hear from Steve Wilson on that Porcupine Tree material from the 90s, or even in his solo work. Really the two bear a lot of similarity, and really the bands are both sonic frontiersmen, so it's almost as though the two were heading their separate ways, but it had to end up in the same one-horse town just to pass through. It's kind of cool whenever you think about the fact that both Radiohead and Porcupine Tree do have that expansive discography that never seems to repeat the same trick twice. Always feels like they're trying to do something a little different, a little bit new, even for them. Daydreaming is really able to captivate that dreamlike glow, but also slowly but surely becomes very visceral and becomes very evil, and has that negative spin, negative light that is brilliantly illuminated right at the end of this cut, which feels like backmasking with some crazy other feedback or noise that is in the background in order to sort of drive you a bit mad and hope that Dex Dark would just hurry up and show up. I like the fact that Radiohead has always been a band that whenever they have a longer track, such as Daydreaming, or such as track number 5, which is Full Stop, it's always something where you don't necessarily know what they're going to do with the time. Most of the time whenever I review longer songs, I say that this is an interesting part of the album because it gives the artist the opportunity to expand their composition. And it's one that I always look at as very make or break, because if you make a long track that's just boring, then you've just wasted the listener's time. Radiohead is able to take something extremely simple and make it into something vast, make it into something dense, so you never know what you're going to get. So Full Stop, with its 6 minutes, is able to really build on something very simple. It's a very simple beat, and is able just to build layers on it, almost like building a house. And somehow, some way, this house looks weird, probably looks like a deranged bear. And then the song itself works. The 6 minute runtime works. Somehow the tempo of this track, it just works with you because you're kind of always swaying a little bit. You're kind of always bobbing your head. It's one that keeps your attention, and that's what Radiohead is. They're very good at doing this. But they're also, once again, damn good at contrast, because Glass Eyes, track number 6, is the complete opposite. It's one that's very mournful, more of a soft ballad, and the lyrics, this is where the lyricism really starts to suggest that there has been a pretty big loss within the Radiohead family, particularly probably in Thom's. This is instead one that seems to suggest that it's extremely personal, and it's one that is very real. And that's where the album starts to take on something that it's had all along throughout the first 5 tracks prior to Glass Eyes, but it's sort of the light switch sort of goes on in your head, and reality sort of illuminates itself with Glass Eyes. This is a very human album. This is a very soulful album. This is one that has a personal touch to it, principally because there has been personal loss, personal grief. And that theme starts to register a little bit more, especially as you get deeper and deeper into some of the lyricism, some of the theme, and some of the composition that you hear of the second half of this disc. One thing that needs to be noted about this album is that this is not all new material. It's new material, but it's not all new material. I'll explain. Songs such as True Love Waits, which is the final track off of this album, and the final cut, it was originally begun, the work on it was begun in 1995. So yeah, it's 21 years old, probably older than some of you watching this video. It can legally drink in the United States, might get carded, but it can still do it. But I do like how that song has evolved, which we'll get to very shortly. Principally because I need to mention the numbers, which has a little bit of almost like a Western vibe behind it. It's very cool. And I think I only draw on that because somebody that I was speaking to about this disc said that they can just imagine the band sort of going through that whole Wild West metaphor that I mentioned with Porcupine Tree, only the rest of the band are just sort of walking down a very sandy, sort of tumbleweed town with a cowboy hat on, which... Think about that while you're listening to this cut, and it brings a smile to your face a little bit, and the song itself is extremely well done. It's another exercise where the band is able to take something that's very simple and able to build it and build it and build it. I love the guitar work on this album. The guitar work is one of its main strengths. If you think that Radiohead's big strength is just being electronic or just really trying to redefine the overall playbook of songwriting, yeah, they're good at that, but don't discount some of the guitar work. It's very simple. It's not something that needs to be all of that complex, mainly because within its simplicity, there is a lot of complexity. Try to understand that statement. Fucking just mind-fucked you, didn't I? Mainly because some of this shit can mind-fuck you by itself. Look at the tab. You'll understand. So anyway, getting into one of the crazier album titles, or should I say song titles, we have Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Sailor, Rich Man, Poor Man, Beggar Man, Thief. I don't know what's up with that. Maybe it was supposed to be on Hail to the Thief. Any research that I've done has shown that this is an original. Either that, or maybe they just watched the movie, Tinker, Tailor, whatever, Spy, that thing, and thought that it was pretty neat and decided to make a song that had all that in there. I could see the band doing something that weird. Shut up. But anyway, moving on to True Love Waits, it's something that is a bit marvelous and kind of goes with the overall themology of this album, at least what you feel that it is after Glass Eyes. And the fact that this is a track that, when originally penned, was all about a man that was seeking true love and hoping that he would one day find it. This composition, the way in which this has been exchanged and redone, remixed, the way in which it has been reworked, gives it more of a gloss, gives it more of an air that is both hopeful but also extremely melancholic. Almost as though it speaks about a gentleman, and instead of looking for true love, had true love, and hopes to one day have it again. The overall shift sort of just in tone and overall musical philosophy of the song, just based off of what I heard whenever I listened to it, really shifts that in that way. Perhaps there's a little bit of philosophy in there based off of how Glass Eyes and how some of the information that has been shared has sort of, perhaps caused a shift in philosophy or caused a shift in mental idea or tone for the song. But either way, it's kind of ironic if that would be the case, considering the tone itself, which is one that has a very hopeful gloss to it, but also it's a hopeful gloss that feels almost very forced, and which feels very much like that hope is being built up by this man, though he doesn't truly believe it. It's something where he tries to convince himself, but can't quite pull it off. Overall, this is an album that has so many different emotions, so many beckoning calls and cries. It's instead one that really feels that it has that personal edge, that personal gloss to it, and it gives it that humanistic, that very soulful, that very real side to it. So whenever you have a real album like that, that really explores that emotionality, word that probably doesn't even exist. I just made it up. Fuck you, Webster. It's something that drives you to really sort of bond a little bit with it. It's one that you can kind of get very connected with, but also very disconnected with. And as strange as that sounds, listen to the album, you'll sort of understand what I mean. The connection is in the fact that you want to disconnect yourself sort of from whatever's around you in order to sort of focus on what Radiohead was able to accomplish with this disc. And then the connection point is really based off of how applicable some of these tracks or some of these lyrics can feel toward your own life, either that or situations that perhaps you've experienced or have been part of your reality. Overall, I think Radiohead did something magnificent here, sort of setting a brand new bar for this brand new generation of Radiohead albums. I think this is the best of the independent releases that they have done. 89 out of 100, a very strong representation, a very beautiful album that explores different musical avenues and really is not afraid to continue to maybe trailblaze new paths within their own sound. Even with them being nearly a 30-year band, Radiohead is a group that still almost feels like there's work to be done with them. You know, they always tend to find a different way or a different method to make sounds different. You know, to give it an extra layer, an extra edge. They still have the capability to sort of make your jaw drop, either that or give you a moment of, I didn't realize that sound existed. I want to know what you guys think about a Moon-Shaped Pool by Radiohead. I have, throughout all of the takes, because this is one of the very rare videos where I've needed multiple takes, I have said a moon-shaped pill a lot. And I think the reason for that is based off of some of the Porcupine Tree references I felt with Daydreaming and Dex Dark. And also the fact that it just sort of rolls off the tongue easier. Maybe they should just call it that. Either that or I just really need to listen to Voyage 34 again, because that album's awesome. Cover Killer Nation, let me know what you think about this record in the comments below. I'm out.